Like I thought I was going to hate having something like this in the middle of conference play, but I've completely come around, and I love the fact that it
Are you
breaks up the
serious?
monotony of having. Yeah, my initial thought was like, why do we want to do this? Like this just fucks everything up. Like this is not the way we do
What?
it. That I was dumb.
That's
I admit
as
it.
a
That was a terrible take by me.
as a player, it's the best thing in the world. Like I told you, like my freshman year, I had a black. Like it's awesome to like play these games, play these conference games, and then all of a sudden you see like two non-conference games in your conference schedule. It's just like, who are we playing? Like who will we play? That who would our coach want to risk like our season on to play mid-conference? Oh, we play UCLA, who's like ranked, blah blah blah. Yeah, of course. We played Evan Turner my senior year. We played Ohio State, ranked top 10. We played like that's awesome to have in the middle of conference because
Mhm.
now, I mean, you have if you get a really good game against a really good, I mean, that's TV game. That's awesome. You get to play and everybody gets to see the game and you get to play against really good
Oh,
competition.
oh, yeah, like it's a
That's
CBS game. You're
yeah,
playing on
man.
you're playing on Natty TV, not just regular,
Exactly.
not local.
Exactly. Nah, you're not. This isn't the Big East Network. This is shout out to the Big East Network. It's good people over there.
Yeah, so like I'm with you, man. I love it. I love that it breaks up the, I don't want to say monotony, but it's just something different. And I would
Yeah.
not, I think we need to leave the Big Ten ACC challenge where it is, because I think one of the biggest problems that we have with college basketball is that there's not great games throughout the entire season, and it allows you to let it be secondary in November
Yeah.
and December. I think we need to get more quality non-conference games. Like the idea that all of these power conference teams are playing 6 or 7 teams that they're going to win, they're going to beat by 1,000. Like that just, it seems silly to me that we're
Yeah.
wasting inventory on that many buy games. So I think finding a way to make more games relevant, especially ones that are going to be on campus, is always going to be a good thing. That said,
Facts.
I love these late season big non-conference matchups, and this one it was so much fun because these games are great. So we had Oklahoma beating up on Alabama. We had Texas Tech erasing a 7-point deficit in the final minute and then beating LSU by 5.
Yeah.
We had Baylor closing down the Sharif Cooper show.
Yeah.
We had Tennessee blowing out Kansas. We had Cade Cunningham hitting a game winner.
Game winner. Yeah.
There was that game in Morgantown that I'm contractually obligated to not mention to you on this
No
podcast
worries.
stream today.
That's good.
We had Missouri TCU that was just absolutely insane. So what was it? What was the biggest storyline coming out of that game? I'm going to open the floor to you and let you have the overreaction here on the Monday Overreactions podcast. It's on you, Day. It's on
If
you.
I had to pick Davion Harmon without, like, they were missing what, 2 starters?
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of an achievement because Alabama's a really good team, and he went out there and he did his thing, and it wasn't just him. I mean, Harkless, everybody, they all played well, but like Oklahoma, Kruger does a great job, and I think he's starting to get obviously starting to get a little bit more credit this year. Like I feel like his name gets slept on in the very beginning of the year until he starts winning games like this, and then everybody's, oh, Lon is this great coach. Like, yeah, he's always been a really good coach. I like his team, man. I like how hard they play, and I like how well they play together. So that was kind of like one of my favorite games this week. Like the game in general, like they play hard as hell that game.
Their guards, just the amount of ball pressure that they put on Alabama's perimeter players.
Mm-hmm.
And like part of this was kind of a matchup thing. Like what Alabama wants to do is basically have like Herb Jones be the guy that they run offense through,
Yeah,
and then have a bunch of other guys that are kind of like combos and secondary ball handlers. And like Josh Primo's kind of like, I guess if you had to list somebody at the point, he would be listed at the point. But like the offense runs through Herb Jones. But like Herb's banged up. Like he's got a back thing.
Facts.
He's got a finger thing. His nose got bloodied in this game. Like he ain't right now.
Yeah, they beat him up, man. They beat him up.
And Oklahoma took advantage of that. Their fourth top 10 win in the month of January. 4 top 10
big.
wins. That's crazy.
That's big, first and foremost. Second, like how hard was it for Alabama to keep Harmon out of the paint, like from driving around? Like he kind of like slashed them up. Like it was pretty. The first half, like he kind of was getting wherever he wanted to find people to get to his shot, whatever. Like it was. I was very impressed with the team, man. It was interesting.
Yeah, especially without two starters and their leading scorer. Yeah, no Austin Reeves, who averages 17, 5, and 5. The big thing was like Alabama couldn't get big defensive rebounds that they needed to. Like it felt like every time when you're like, all right, we need to stop. Okay, they missed a shot. And it was that moment where it's like, just get the defensive rebound. Oklahoma got every single one of those, right? They picked up. I don't know if there's like any metric or any stat that I can give for that beyond just like it felt like every big rebound Oklahoma got. And still, despite all of that, if Jaden Shackelford hits like one of two layups down the stretch, or if Alex Reese hits one of those two wide open threes in the second half in like the final 4 minutes, like Alabama's got a really good chance of winning that game. So like I'm still even Robbie Hummel's going to hate on us forever for saying this, but I'm still in on Alabama, man. That is a really, really good basketball team.
Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of went in on Reese yesterday, and then I watched the game again. And I mean, at the end of the day, we know that's Bruner's natural, like that's his spot, but Reese is filling in that spot. And he I mean, if he's getting all those shots, you can't tell a guy not to shoot. Obviously you can tell a guy not to shoot 10 threes, but at the same time, I mean, he had a bunch of wide open ones that you can't tell your players not to shoot that if you want to keep them confident, if you want to keep the defense honest at a certain point in time, like, all right, maybe next game he won't shoot 10 threes and he won't go 3 for 10 or something like that. Maybe he'll go like 3 for 5, but you can't sit there and say, don't shoot it. Cause now like that's going to mess him up later on, especially if the way they play, like they pick and pop and he gets a lot of shots, like as far as flaring and fading. So, and he got a lot of shots, bro. It was, you got to shoot him.
Yeah. And, I was listening to Duncan Robinson the other day when he was on Stu Douglas's pod on the Go Blue Stu podcast on the Field of 68 Network. And he was saying like, for him, the hardest thing for him to like kind of wrap his head around was that, like, if you pay any attention to one game samples in terms of shooting, like all you're going to do is fuck yourself up. Because he was like, the difference between being one of the greatest shooters in the NBA and being a guy that is going to play his way out of the league is like that one shot that you just mentioned, right? So Alex Reese was 3 for 10. If he goes 3 for 10 for every game, he's a 30% 3-point shooter. And he's terrible. You got to kick him off the team. You got to cut him. They pull a scholarship. He's gone. He's transferring to Alabama, Birmingham, right? But you make 4 out of 10 every game. All of a sudden, you're a 40% 3-point shooter. Like you're considered, if you're doing that at 6'9", oh, you know what? Maybe he's going to get NBA looks. Oh, he's the key to the team. Like blah blah blah, whatever it is. So 1-3 rattling out is changes everything. So you just can't you can't think about it. If you're Alex Reese, like you can't think about it beyond just like I took the shots that I'm supposed to take. I shot them well, and you just have to trust that eventually, like they're going to go in, right? There's a reason why you're out there, and it's why you have to view it as the threat of my shot is what matters, not whether or not it goes in. What I do to a defense simply by being out there. So keep firing them up, Alex.
Alex, keep shooting the ball. Keep shooting the ball, bro.
All right, we got to touch on this other stuff. So Baylor, I got a stat for you. I dropped this on Goodman the other day. Baylor is the only team in Ken Palm's database so dating back to 2003, I believe, that is top 5 in the country in 3-point shooting percentage. They lead the nation at 43.4% 3-point shooting. They are 4th nationally in offensive rebounding percentage at 38.6%. They get 38.6% of their misses. And then they are 4th nationally in defensive turnover percentage.
Yes.
At 26, they force turnovers on 26% of their opponent's possessions, which is like when it comes to like the analytics and like the stat nerd stuff of basketball, like that right there is the sweet spot.
That's winning right there. It's like, so like you rebound it, you literally can stop what they're doing and you make perimeter shots. Like
Yeah, that's the sweet spot. Like and if you want to go deeper into it, like this is getting a little bit into the weeds, but there was a guy named Dean Oliver who's considered like the OG of basketball analytics. And
Mm-hmm.
basically what he said was the four things that matter when it comes to determining how good you are your shooting percentages, your the amount of times you get to the free throw line,
Yep.
your rebounding, and your turnovers. And essentially what it means is like, okay, if you win the turnover battle and you force more turnovers, it means you're going to have more possessions, more possessions that end in shots and more possessions where they don't have that end in shots, right? If you win the rebounding battle, it means that you're going to have more opportunities on the offensive end, and it means that you're going to limit their extra opportunities on the defensive end. And then the shooting and free throw stuff is just like, that's how efficient are you at scoring points on those extra possessions that you do get. When it comes to Baylor, like they do the thing that you need to do to be efficient offensively better than anybody else in the country. And they also just so happen to create more possessions for themselves better than anybody else in the country via turnovers and offensive rebounds. So like that's how you become a great team. You combine all of that with like having a couple of the best defenders. They're so much fun. They're so likable. I know that they're like a West Virginia rival for you.
But it's still fun to watch them play. It's still fun to watch them play.
And the best part about it is like all those kids are just they're so likable. Like they're just they got a kid named Everyday John. How about this? He said he hasn't even played 70 basketball games in his life. Everyday John.
Yeah, I heard like he just played. It's like his junior or senior in high school or something like that. Like I don't listen. More power to the Baylor team. They're a very unique team. A team I think that depending on who they play, but I feel like they can basically beat any team in college. I think they can win a national championship. That's how talented they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about consistency scoring, like not just the 3-point shooting, like because they don't overshoot threes really. Like they shoot a nice amount of threes. They stay in their lane with 3-point shooting, and that's why they shoot so well. So they're like efficient. I just wonder about the consistent scoring. Like defensively, they're going to bring it. Like they're going to make sure they make it difficult for you. It's just a matter of if they're going to be consistent finishing around the basket and obviously making jump shots. If they can continue to shoot at this rate, I mean, they'll win. I really wonder about their offense as a whole. Like shooting, their free throw shooting isn't the greatest. It's not bad, but it's not what it should be. And I mean, they have their things that they need to work on, but I still think they could win a national championship. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
In this pool this year, definitely. Like it's not that hard to pick for Baylor.
Yeah, so we talked about Texas Tech, and we talked about what was it, Florida, West Virginia on the recording that we did on Saturday. So I don't think we need to kind of rehash any of that, but I do just want to quickly mention like David McCormick finished with 17 points on Saturday. But here's my thing. Like, I hate.
You remember what I said though? If he's a leading scorer at the end of the game, and regardless if he shoots the ball well or not, I'm always happy to see David McCormick do well. If he's a leading scorer for the game, especially the way that that stat sheet looked, he was like the leading scorer by a little bit, like not a little bit, by a good bit. I didn't expect them to win the game. Like I barely caught the game.
That's my thing with it is that when the least efficient thing that you can do on a basketball court is to throw the ball into the post and let somebody go one-on-one with their back to the basket. If I am game planning against Kansas, what I want Bill Self to do on every single possession is to throw the ball into David McCormick, who's is shooting like 48% from the floor or something like that, and let him try to go one-on-one to the post. That's what I want them to do on every single possession, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, to me, like that you're playing into everybody else's hands. And if you go by the data on hooplens.com, when Kansas does not have either David McCormick or Mitch Lightfoot on the floor, so when they're going with like their full small ball lineup, they are 15 points per 100 possessions better than their opponents. So I don't understand the infatuation with having that big guy out there. I get that Bill Self, like, he knows way more about basketball than I do and way more than I'm ever going to know. But it drives me crazy seeing him seeing him on the floor because I'm just like that plays into the hands of everybody that you're going up against. He's not good enough defensively to make up for it, and he doesn't do enough other things. So there are going to be games where he goes 8 for 12 and scores 17 points. But I think that's why you're losing by 19 at Tennessee. That's why you're giving up 80 points to a team that couldn't break like 60 for the last month.
And this is like the thing that kills me about it is like I said, I love seeing Dave McCormick go out there and get buckets, and I like to see Kansas do well for the most part, unless they're playing against my Mountaineers. But you can't, like, they got punished on the glass. Like, it was bad. Mm-hmm. Like, they didn't start Jalen Wilson anyway. I think he had like 2 boards or something, like 1 board. What is it?
McCormick had 2 boards. 2 boards.
In a 33-minute game at 6'10", 6'11". It's just like, of course, it's good to see him get the baskets, but at that size, especially when the other team is smaller, you need to find a way to impose your will. And I'm not talking to McCormick. It's just more like Kansas, like having him on the floor is more or less you need to get him to impose his will, like for rebounding and other things to affect the court, to protect the basket and rebound. Like, it's hard to have him out there and like you have to be a step slower because other teams are going to be basically playing small ball. See, I personally don't think small ball, like you matching small ball with small ball always works. And I know you hate the term small ball, but it's just, I feel like if you have somebody that's big enough that can keep up, it neutralizes it altogether. But it also, that person that's big enough to keep up has to impose the will. Like, you can have small ball and with LeBron and at the 4, we're talking about LeBron and then this Kansas team, but still, like LeBron at the 4 and AD as a 5, and AD could play the 4. And you can even go smaller, but at the same time, like AD can keep up with 4s and 5s and 3s and things like that. So it doesn't matter. Like he's big, but he's also able to defensively move and be that versatile. He can impose his will in a game defensively and rebound and do all the things as well as score, take advantage of mismatches. This is what Kansas is kind of missing. Like, I'm with Bill Self. If you want to play big or you want to keep one big guy out there, please, that's awesome to me. Just to make sure that he's out there, like he's a presence though. Mm-hmm. Like not just like once in a while. And I'm not trying to kill McCormick, man. Like he's gotten better from the beginning of the season to this point in the season. I can honestly say that. I think he'll be better next year. Like it's not like I'm sitting there like I lost absolute faith in David McCormick. No, it's not even that. It's just like for what he's giving you right now, he doesn't have a big enough presence for what they're expecting him to have. Like, it's not showing. So I don't know what they can do. Like, I feel like it's very tough. Like, it's just like you're gonna go Jalen Wilson at the center completely. We saw that this year already. It wasn't.
I thought it worked. I thought it worked pretty like that's how
until he went cold. Until he went cold. But it's like he went cold. So
I hear you. Look, trust me. I hear you. Yeah. But like at some point you just kind of have to trust that like eventually those shots are going to come back and go down. I don't know. It's just frustrating to see him like do the same thing over and over and over again when you kind of know what the end result is going to end up being. But whatever. Like, let's move on. We can argue about David McCormick later.